Order the planning board meeting for Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017, to order at 7:07 p.m. Have a roll call, please.
Let's see, Richard Parks, are you here?
Here.
Sergio Spaziano, are you here?
Here.
Ron Sebastian, are you here? So present is Tom Hardy, secretary, Carol Shawley, clerk, and the people who are in attendance, whose names are on the clipboard, and who have I forgotten now? Okay. Oh, and I'm so sorry. And excuse Tom Mercier and Mark Carpenter.
I'll accept the motion for approval of the minutes for January 18th.
Tom's not here, but has somebody else?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for
Second.
January 18th.
Second by Sergio. Discussion.
I've got a couple of. These are not substantive, nothing is substantive, but just for Carol. Carol, first page, I think Foster Center Fire Department or Fire Company is FCFC, so to,
This is January 18th?
January 18th.
Okay, the first
Okay.
page, and
Where it says public and applicants are present,
Okay.
okay, FC. Second page,
Oh, I see, one, yeah, and then there, okay. We're doing these minutes.
yeah, okay, second page, bottom paragraph, third line up, they left out a word, so the sentence should read, the vehicles have been outfitted, I think, operating expenses in the past and sometimes have was left out, foregone accessories due to lack of available funds.
I'm sorry, which paragraph are you on now?
And it just shows you,
Oh, okay, right, okay.
okay? Okay, not substantive. Okay, page 3. Under engineering board. It says, last sentence, it says, Mr. Morrison said they were only in the beginning stages of specs. That would be for equipment requests. And I'd be happy to just give you my copy. No, one more, and really minor, on page 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, basically paragraphs down, it says, Mr. Carey asked Mr. Spaziano, the end of that sentence, Mr. Spaziano replied.
Oh, yes.
Got it. Okay,
Could I suggest from now on with these minor corrections that we email the clerk, she make the corrections and bring new copies to the meeting?
Sure. I think so, if they're not substantive.
If they're not substantive versus, a word
Yeah.
here and there.
Is that Joanne, is that?
That's fine, or even if you'd like to put on the record that you have several typographical changes and you
Yeah.
provide them.
Just give them, and
Yes.
just give them my minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, then people don't have to go through that painful thing. Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Accept the motion for the minutes for April 19th.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes of April 19th.
Second. Second by Sergio. Discussion.
Let's see. Nothing substantive. Nothing substantive. Carol?
Okay. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Accept the motion for the minutes from April 22nd, 2017.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from April 22nd.
Have a second?
Yeah.
Second. Mr. Yun. Discussion? No discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do we have any correspondence tonight? Hearing none? Okay, move on to board members' reports. Dam Trust, there's no report available. And conservation, do you have anything on conservation, Sergio?
Nothing.
Okay. We'll move on to major land development, a pre-application of applicant Danielson Pike Solar LLC and owner Northwest Community Healthcare to construct a 950 kilowatt DC ground-mounted solar installation on Danielson Pike by poles 191 and 190 through 195 at the intersections of Schoolhouse, should be Schoolhouse Road on 7.88 acres. Doing plat 10, lot 20 in a general business mixed use district. This time, I allow applicant to make the presentation.
Good evening, Chairman Carey and members of the board. My name is Jennifer Cervenka. I'm here on behalf of Danielson Pike Solar LLC. I have with me tonight one of the principals of Danielson Pike Solar LLC, Mr. John Tabatis, sitting here in the audience, and also Mr. Jason Gold from ESS, who's prepared the site plans and other technical specifications. Yes. Yes, it's CER, V as in Victor, ENKA. Chairman, as you read, this is for pre-application meeting for the construction of a 950 kilowatt DC solar installation, which is approximately 3,000 panels over 2.5 acres on a roughly 7-acre parcel at the intersection of Route 6 and Shippey Schoolhouse Road. It's in a general business mixed use or GBM zone. The owner is Northwest Community Healthcare. Under your 2015 solar ordinance and amended table of uses, we are considered a major land development, which means that we need to get planning board approval and also a special use permit from the zoning board of review. As you will hear, Danielson Pike Solar has designed a proposal that will be compliant with all the standards and requirements of your solar ordinance. The installation is also consistent with the mixed uses in the neighboring area and helps fulfill a couple of the objectives under your comprehensive plan. One being the attracting new business on Route 6, and the other to diversify the local economy in a manner that's consistent with your rural community values. Mr. Tapatis is going to talk, the principal of Danielson Pike Solar is going to talk a little bit about who Danielson Pike Solar is and what the general intended use is of the property. And then Mr. Gold, our consultant, will describe to you and walk you through the site plan with all of the various elements of that plan. Before I turn it over to them, I do want to note that I did speak a number of times with your interim town planner. My client and the consultant had a number of in-person meetings. She had requested a number of changes. We've incorporated those changes into the pre-application package that you do have before you. And we are in agreement with the staff report that she's presented for your review and how she's presented the existing conditions and the proposed development.
And I just, is that true? Yes.
Yep. Thank you. So I would like to turn it over now to my client, Mr. John Tapatis of Danielson Pike Solar.
Mr. Tapatis, can you spell your name, please?
Gladly. T as in Tom, Y, P as in Peter, A, D as in David, I, S as in Sam. You're welcome. I'm here representing Danielson Pike Solar. We're a small group of individuals who are developing a solar project at the intersection of Shippey Schoolhouse Road and Danielson Pike at the aforementioned property. It's planned to be a 950 kilowatt DC solar facility. The intended use is a very passive one. There's no odor, there's no noise, there's no really anything other than solar panels that would be there to stare up into the sun and smile. So we're happy to be in front of the board. We think that it is consistent with what the property is zoned for, and with the future planned uses according to the comprehensive plan. And we're excited to be in front of you and happy to talk further at length and happy to answer any questions during this meeting. So I'll pass it over to Jason.
I have a question here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. In looking at the plans, am I correct in saying that this is 20 feet off the road, or am I looking at this wrong? Where the fence will be 20 feet off the road, is that correct? Not?
The fence is going to be further than 20 feet off
All
the
right,
road.
because I can't see it on mine, what is it?
So there's a 20-foot vegetated buffer,
Okay, all right, thank you, I see the 20, all right.
and then just behind that is going to be the fence.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions of Mr. Tapadas? Okay, then let's get into the meat of the project with Mr. Gold.
My name is Jason Bold, easy last name to spell. I'm a civil engineer at ESS Group.
Let's move this up.
Thank you.
You
should be even closer.
It would be okay with me if it's okay with the board, since we have a 11 by 17 of that. It would be okay with me if it's okay with the rest of the board to orient that so people who
The
are here
audience can see it?
can see
Okay.
it. Is that okay
That's
with
fine.
other people?
You got copies.
The property is a 7.1 acre property. It's a wooded lot. It's divided by wetlands. ESS flagged the wetlands in February. As was mentioned, it's a general business mixed-use area, mixed-use zone. The surrounding area is light commercial, residential. There's a small historic cemetery off the northwest corner of the property. The proposed project doesn't interfere with that cemetery or impede access zone. The proposed 950 kilowatt solar arrays will be divided on both sides of the site. In total, they cover about 2.6 acres of the 7-acre site. About 0.6 acres is on the west side of the wetlands, the remaining is on the west side. The proposed layout has been designed in accordance with the zoning ordinance. The 35-foot front setback has been maintained, as has the 50-foot side setbacks. A 30-foot vegetated buffer will be maintained along the side. Side lot lines, in accordance with the zoning, with the dimensional regulations, and a 20-foot vegetated buffer will be maintained along the front property lines in accordance with the solar ordinance. Each array will be surrounded by a 9-foot security fence. That fence will be set back 15 feet from the arrays, leaving a 15-foot interior access for emergency vehicles. Emergency vehicles can access the site by one of two driveways, one on either side of the wetlands. There'll be gravel driveways, emergency lockbox will be provided on each gate. Emergency lockbox, yes. All of the electrical lines will be underground, with the exception of an overhead crossing, which is required across the wetlands, and of course the interconnection to the grid on Danielson Pike. No exterior lighting is proposed, nor is any of the prohibited signage. After master plan approval, we will be submitting a preliminary determination application to the Rhode Island DM Alliance. We did meet with them last month in a pre-application meeting. They seemed supportive of the project, they didn't have any concerns. They raised their setback outside the 50-foot perimeter wetland. There's not much increase in runoff expected. We did leave space for drainage features in case there is a small increase in runoff. We can mitigate that. I expect DM will be issuing either an insignificant alteration permit, if not even a finding of non-jurisdiction. We'll also be submitting to RIDOT for a physical alteration permit. We've sent them concepts, they're looking at that now, we haven't heard back from them yet.
And there's, is it okay to interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Somebody checked site distances from each of the entries, particularly the eastern entry?
Right, we would.
You would. And so your entry will be in accordance with where the state is. That intersection has a
Yeah, the western,
reputation. Yeah.
I was thinking the same. I was considering, because you have wetlands in between the two arrays, obviously you won't be able to use the eastern access to get to the western side of the property. So I was thinking possibly entering from Shippey Schoolhouse Road would be a safer alternative. I mean, I'm sure, you know, that intersection is very dangerous, there's a lot
Yeah.
of collisions up there.
Our
Just with the roads. that
Our
are
chief is here, and he could tell you that we don't have that many accidents in town, but I would say a large percentage of them are at that intersection, the ones that we have, because of sight distance.
Right. Okay, yeah, we could look at that.
DOT, probably.
I think the supermarket going there.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was just about to ask if there were any questions.
Just one.
Yes.
Did you say that you're adding one pole? One
No.
utility pole?
There's multiple.
Yeah, I thought something like that was, okay. Yeah, like four, I think.
There's
4 or 6.
well, no, there's 2 overhead poles.
Okay, I just thought you had said one, and I thought I'd
Yeah.
seen something like that, multiple.
4 new poles along the intersection.
Right. And then 2 to cross the wetlands.
You already have an agreement with National Grid at this time?
Yes.
Yep. We have an interconnection service agreement with the utility, as well as a 20-year contract for the utility to buy the balance of the power distribution. It's a regrowth award from the Rhode Island Regrowth Program, which is implemented by National Grid.
Now, will you be leasing the property or will you be buying it?
We'll be buying it.
Anything further on the board? No. Serge? So, if there's nothing further from the board, I guess the next step would be the master plan meeting.
Could I ask one question? Just as a result of the feedback about the driveway. Is it the board's preference that that driveway be moved to Shippey Schoolhouse Road?
I think it'd be the safer alternative if we're gonna be using, especially during construction, probably a lot of trucks in and out of it.
We just want to be cognizant of any, viewpoints from across the street. We want to be cognizant and respectful of neighbors and their neighbors.
I understand.
Do you anticipate much traffic
No,
once it's constructed?
once it's constructed, visits to the site will be quarterly. These are, they're monitored remotely, so
Right.
there doesn't need to be somebody at the site every day, once a quarter.
When do you expect to hear from DOT on curb cuts?
They told me to get back to me on the 8th, so in a few days with their initial comments.
Yeah,
The location on the west is, there's an existing kind of turn in right there, so that's the only reason that spot's.
We'll see what they, you know, how they view it, you know, they're the experts on that, and we'll go from there. It is a dangerous area.
Can I just ask, consultation with the police department might be helpful because, or even the ambulance, because they're the ones who, you know, have to respond when there's an accident, so they might have a better idea of which would be a safer place. They know better than we do.
Excuse me.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that, thank you.
I actually, one second. I actually think putting the entrance on Shippey Schoolhouse Road creates a greater hazard than having the entrance on Route 6. All the accidents take place, and people kind of, no, some of the accidents take place coming out of Cucumber Hill Road and Shippey Schoolhouse Road. If you're there 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm there every morning, it's much harder to get off those roads now, and adding more traffic coming off the roads with trucks and stuff, probably slow-moving trucks is probably a bigger danger than having this thing, the driveway way to the east where it's placed. And I think, I don't know if Bill will agree with me, I think most of the speeding takes place coming off of 395 going east than, and I see people, big trucks speeding going down west, but there's greater sight going west than there is coming over that hill going east. So I think the way they've placed it is probably better than adding more traffic coming, trying to get off of Shippey Schoolhouse Road, but.
Yeah, that's why I was gonna wait for ride out and see.
And, you know, Bill could add where the accidents
Obviously,
take place.
they're gonna approve it or they're not, and if they have a problem with it, we'll go from there.
So when we would come before you again on master plan, which we would hope to do on May 17th, we would keep our plan as is, but we would explore whether or not it should be changed in consultation with RIDA and perhaps others.
I would talk to the chief, you know, the chief's sitting right there.
Yeah, just, again, it is our most dangerous intersection. Most of the accidents are left-hand turning vehicles because of sight distances, because of the vehicles. When the Route 6 was supposed to be reconstructed, they left that part out, or they took a big portion of that out. There are plans right now, and again, they might be held up because that intersection is in the planning stage to be reconstructed. You know, so again, I don't know what that's gonna, you know, entail as far as turning lanes, or again, I don't know, you know, road relocations. You know, the state line is right there, and that's something that have to be, you know, considered when they do it. So, you know, but again, most of our accidents are turning left to shouldn't be on it.
I know they were looking at that road with the dips, so they should consider doing some, they're doing some work up there. One of the projects that the state is in agreement with in the town, so there's some changes going to be made there for safety. We'll wait for IDOT, I'm sure they're aware of whatever they're planning up there, so.
Other than that access point, is there anything else that the board has concerns about or questions about that we could better address at master plan stage, if any?
You did a good job of presenting of doing the vegetative buffer, of explaining why there were the two different grades, and of detailing the drainage. So I guess just construction, just the construction constraints will be, you know, what we would want to see.
Okay.
You probably won't have the wetlands before the master occupancy.
We will not have that determination,
Until after.
not until after. but we will be submitting soon thereafter, after master plan.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for your time, I appreciate it, and we will see you soon.
All right.
Master plan, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I might have it. Oh, is it?
Yeah, it should be on the website, there's all the new orders on the website. That's why I think it's good to move about it. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the zoning. We addressed the wind turbine ordinance tonight. We're gonna go about this a little differently tonight. I'm gonna try to make it a little more productive. So we want to just, start at the beginning, kind of work our way through, we'll look at the minor first, see if everybody's good with that, and then we'll work through.
Can I say something before we start? I just thought based on the conversation we had at the site, I thought that what Deep Pasquale was saying was that you have to do like a feasibility analysis for the town to know where these things should go before we draft an ordinance or something.
I think he was saying, if he was gonna contract with us, if he was, a viable location for him to do something in town, he would map the town out. I don't think he would do it if they didn't. That was what I was getting from it, that it was, they do a feasibility, for the entire town to see where would be locations of possible wind turbines.
Yeah. Okay, so the town still wants to have an ordinance? Well, I thought I'd explain myself, but I was thinking that after the meeting at the wind turbine, that
Well,
we might not be in a position to develop an ordinance at this point.
that's why we're gonna go through this in the beginning. We'll work through it as we get to each section that concerns those topics, so we can discuss them at that time. As we, know where we are and where we want to go. And
So Bill, you're working from the,
I just use the old one, I couldn't read through the draft, so the only difference on the original and the draft is the 3.0. So we started out with the definitions. The definitions are pretty straightforward. I don't think anybody had any concerns with the definitions of the different types of turbines.
Could you speak up, Joe? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
So we'll start out with the definitions of the wind turbines and the difference between a minor and a major solar wind turbine. And I didn't think anybody had any trouble with that as far as the definition, so I moved right on to the minor. Did you have any comments on the definition? Right, so the minor wind turbines, I was looking at this and I had some thoughts. It says that it meets all applicable zone requirements, including but not limited to lighting, signage, and maximum building height. I think the maximum building height is 35 feet in town. So variance would be required in order to put up a minor for the height. I was thinking that research in the minor, where 30-meter or a hub height of approximately 100 feet would be a max height, possibly put that in there. I don't know if the board thinks it's a bit high.
For a minor?
Yeah, for the minor. Right, because that's the norm from the ones that are around the country for a minor. These are personal wind turbines for people to use for their farms or their properties. It's not something that's going to be commercial. So I don't know if we wanted to add a height restriction to it.
Could I add the reason why there's a height limitation in town zoning? Because the purpose of that, just so you're aware of it, nobody seems to understand probably, it is because of structure fires. Our three-stage ladders have to be able to reach a roof line in case we have to save a life or gain access to a building. On the height issue, it may still need a variance, but you just need to know why. Our hoses, and if there's a fire up, we could probably spray at least 100 and something feet up, but we clearly probably wouldn't meet the top of a large one, but regardless, there's no lives at risk. The purpose of the 35-foot was to gain access during a structure fire for public safety.
Oh, I'm aware of that, but the problem is that the zoning ordinance
No, I'm just
does affect this because of that reason.
I understand. I was just
35 feet is
letting you know the purpose of the 35-foot.
Thank you. Of course, the cell towers are,
Right.
What?
Cell towers.
so the cell towers that we have are about 180 feet.
I
Okay,
just,
so,
with past experience with the miners, I mean, people do have them in town already, and they have seek variances.
Joe, to your first point, with the fall zone, 1.5 times the fall zone, you really, once you cite the thing, it has to be 1.5 times from any boundary line, so I think your first point is moot. And your second point, I don't know why we'd have a height restriction. I can see a variance to over 100 feet, but I can't see a height restriction for somebody that has 40 acres or 100 acres and doesn't affect anybody. So,
At 100 feet it doesn't, but I feel that if they get too tall, that's where they become obnoxious.
but the cell towers, the reason I asked Helen, the cell tower is 180 feet. And when we had that conversation, I was on the board with cell towers, and the town tried to restrict the height of cell towers, and the federal law declares that you can't restrict the profitability of the cell tower, and the way you do that is by restricting the height. So if somebody wants to put a tower on their property, it affects no one else's property. When he cites it, he may say, at 100 feet, it's not beneficial to me and you. At 170 feet or 150 feet, it is beneficial to you, and you're now restricting somebody's ability to make money on their property. And once again, I'll go back to the gentleman that came here and presented us with alternative uses of your property.
I'm sorry, for the minor wind turbine, unless I'm mistaken, it's only for generation of power to be used on the property.
Right, but still, all right, but still, that is, okay.
But this is because if you research these minor wind turbines, that is the standard height of a minor wind turbine. These units that they put on people's farms, property for their own use, 30 meters, which is 98.6 feet. So I just thought, it'd be good because I don't have a problem with the miners because they are shorter and they're not visible to everybody in the area. So being on the personal property, I think, it is a reasonable request. But, I mean, it's up to the board. It's just my thought. It's one of the things that I found.
Seems reasonable.
Well, your first point was what? What was your first point?
Excuse me.
You had 2 points. Your first, you had discussion.
I was just clarifying that they would require a variance by our zoning. It wasn't my determination.
No, I know.
The 35 feet building height, I know in the past, when people have done these minor turbines, or when, you know, the generators, they had to get variances, because I had a couple of people I know that had them. And I was just clarifying that, it's not something that would be in the ordinance, it's something that I wanted to clarify that it was required through our zoning. So I believe it is, it's still required to have a variance for the height.
And it does, in the ordinance that, the draft ordinance, it has setback requirement of 3 times.
Okay, that has to be discussed.
Right. I think the 3 probably was something we discussed for the major, and I think when Juliana did it, she put the 3 on both. I don't know what the board's intent was
Well, I mean,
when we discussed it the last time. I think we had talked about the increase in it, remember?
well, and I agreed with Helen at the time, but after going there,
Right.
finding out the weight of those blades, and that with the speed, there's no speed to shoot it out, they drop straight down, that it should be maintained at 1.5 times. There's no need to increase the distance. It's the height that's the problem of the fall, and it's 1.5 times the height.
Yeah, and I think we did get a lot of good information at the tour the other day, and I think, you know, as far as the icing, that was discussed too, and that was one of the reasons for the 3.0 that we were thinking. And there is no icing. The turbines of today are designed to shut down if there's an icing condition. So if they get a lot of balance or whatsoever, they'll shut down. And it's not common in this area, I guess, according to Mark DePasquale, who did the, you know, spoke with us at that meeting, that the icing problem is really not something that we have to be too concerned with in this area.
The one reason for having a greater distance would not be, you know, for that, but just to put it more central, probably on the property, or more, or farther away from lot lines. So that would, by necessity, make it a little less visible to abutters.
I think, Helen, the 3 times we picked up from Massachusetts, and it was explained to us that Massachusetts has a different turbine that's more to the west, turns at a higher speed, and that's why Massachusetts passed that. These turbines, if we're still on the minor, 100 feet, you're going to see 300 feet from the lot line, or 3 times the distance from the lot line, may stop people from using their property because 300 feet may be wet. So I think we should maintain the 1.5 times height.
Was your reason for Helen, was it for aesthetics, to have it more centrally located on the property?
That's obnoxious to neighbors.
I have to say, I've talked to a bunch of women, and actually in the town hall, my wife, and one woman told me she found them offensive. Most women tell me they were beautiful. So we're not here, I don't think, for aesthetics. We're here to build an ordinance for people to use, have the ability to use their property. What I find beautiful, you may find offensive.
And so, you know, the reason for zoning is to keep us from being obnoxious to our neighbors. And so, you know, I had no intention of being, as you know, of commenting on the aesthetics of it, just that I would like to have it away from the, as much as possible from the property line.
But that may limit somebody's ability to use their property, Helen, because you know how the property in Foster is. The roads are where they are because everything outside the roads is swamp. So 300 feet from the road or 300 feet from the property lines on my property, I could never put one.
But that's what variances are for.
Well, why make this building ordinance with all kinds of variances necessary? I'm gonna say this over and over again, we had a guy here telling us how to help people use their property. We were interested in that, okay? And let's help people use their property. That's our job.
And I totally agree. I totally agree. But I also think you have to protect the people who live next door.
But that's because you think, and this isn't disagreement between you, that's because you think you wouldn't want one next to your house or visual of your house. I'm not saying that personally, I'm saying it in general, okay? I may want the thing right next to my house like he did. So it would have been nice. Well,
This is a
So
minor
that's a,
waiver.
yeah, that's a,
All right, now, we had it at 1.5, and got put up to 3. What do you feel about this grant? Do you have any further thoughts on it?
Maybe a suggestion to address both Ron and Helen's points. I see Helen's point about the aesthetics and not wanting to put too close to the property lines, but I see Ron's point about, well, you want to maximize the ability to site these things properly. Maybe I agree there definitely needs to be a minimum to deal with the fall radius and whatnot for safety, but maybe with respect to siting them from an aesthetic perspective, maybe the radius should not be, the setback should not be from a property line, but rather should be from an adjacent residential structure. So you keep it has to be so far away from neighbors' houses.
okay,
Specifically.
to that point, and I'm going to use the roads again. You'll notice in Foster, with 300 foot of frontage, you'll go by a lot of houses that have 300 foot of frontage, and they're both at a point on the 300 feet close to each other because the properties fall off and they can't use them there. So once again, you say it has to be, we don't know what your number is, it has to be X amount of feet from your neighbor's property, you're back in that swamp. And think about Foster and its roads and how the properties all fall. Our forefathers were very cognizant of the fact where their wagons got stuck.
That's true, and that some properties will probably fall into that bucket, but at least it isn't as extreme as just pushing it out to the center of the property, as Helen initially suggested. So it may offer at least more relief to more properties, suggestion. We can talk about it.
Right.
I also went to the presentation and I heard the numbers 1.5 times height, 3 times height. So I took actually the height of the one we looked at. Just, to me, I'd like to know how much of a piece of property would be needed on such a thing. So at the height of that, at 415 feet, 1.5 times the height you would literally need to put it in the middle so it would fall with that distance in both directions. You would need, by my calculations, and correct if I'm wrong, about 40 acres of land. 3 times the height, you would need 140 acres of a perfect square piece of property. So if you're trying to ordinance this where it'll never be put in town, 3 times the height will do it.
well,
It's just,
we're talking about 100 feet, so 300 feet is not, would not.
well, when you get to the minor to the commercial, I'm sure you're gonna hold, why would you not hold the same? Because a commercial one is a much higher one, and you would probably hold to the same setback, fall distance, just because a 100-foot one is viewable from less of a distance than a larger one. So I'm pretty sure whatever fall zone you will apply to the minor height and the major height. So I was just giving an example of a common one that's in this state, the one that we have the most of on the commercial side. 3 times the height you would need over 140 acres of a perfect square piece of property. So just giving you that information, if you go 3 times the height on a typical one that's used commercially in the state, you won't get it in the town of Forest. You're basically ordinance them completely out of the town, just if you want to look at it that way.
Well, at this point,
What's the recommended
1.5.
width, width 3 times?
And from Massachusetts.
There was discussion at the previous meeting, because we weren't familiar with them, and there was some concerns about ice sharing, and everybody wasn't really up on all the information on these. After our tour, we did get a little more insight on it, but there was some concerns about that. And so they looked at the Massachusetts, and they had a 3.0 on some of theirs.
Because they have heavier turbines.
But the whole ordinance in Massachusetts, actually, some of it is 1.5, depending.
Do the turbines themselves, the individual, the equipment, do they come with their own recommended fall zones?
Well, that's
For example, the
why,
heavier one may have one fall zone and the lighter one may have different fall
well,
zones.
that's why if the manufacturer setback values should apply instead if they're, if they're larger. That's right in the ordinance. So if the manufacturer says it should be 3 or 2 or whatever, then we use the manufacturer's recommendation.
But if we're gonna do that, then, because 3 does sound excessive to me, maybe we should be setting a more realistic floor.
I understand, so we're discussing it. One of the things I did find out,
I just have to check, you were talking about minor at this point, right? We're talking about
I think it
minor.
applies to either one, but I don't know.
So do you think like 300 feet is excessive?
I think
I'm
3
just-
times,
Yeah.
if I'm looking at it from a safety perspective, that seems like a lot. I can't imagine a safety issue. I'm not considering it from an aesthetics, but from a safety perspective, I can't imagine that you would need that much space.
one of the things I did learn at the tour the other day was that in Rhode Island, not unlike other states, they measure the turbines from the tip of the blade, where other states go to the center of the rotor. So our 1.5 is actually
The blade all the way up.
another 100. How big's the blade?
It's
How long are the blades?
It's 415 feet, correct, with the
Yeah,
blade up?
41 meters is the blade of most commercially installed turbines in Rhode Island, so it's like 120 feet.
No, we say
So-
100 feet, and we refer to.
So we're adding 125 feet of height in Rhode Island because of our, Rhode Island rules are more to the tip of the blade.
Because we're better.
In other states, at the center of the rotor.
So when we say 1.5 times, you're saying 1.5 times to the tip of the blade.
In the up position.
So,
Right.
so if you have a 400-foot turbine with a 120-foot blade, it's 520 feet to the tip of the blade. That's how they measure it in Rhode Island, so it is a little,
It's built in with extra.
1.5 is, yeah, right.
At the last meeting, I agreed with Helen and the planner that the distance should be increased, but when we went to the presentation, the blades are so heavy, they fall right down, they don't go anyplace. So,
Is that the concern that they fly out?
yeah, that was my concern.
18,000 pounds each blade weighs.
They do, yeah, boom. It's
And one
like
of
a
the things,
plane that loses its engine.
and it's usually caused by the blade hitting the tower. So they hit the tower, they break off, they fall straight down. That's normally the only time the blades shear. They've had no other incidents. I don't think
So
so.
ice is not affected.
They shut down.
They shut
The
down.
If
vibration.
they're out of balance, they automatically shut down when the ice gets on. and they also have temperature monitors and everything. They're quite sophisticated today, and a lot of the stuff, you know, is new to the,
Yeah, when they shut down, I believe there's a manual startup. They just can't, they don't automatically start back up. You have to go and override and manually start it back up.
but that's why all our, in our ordinance, IEC certification is part of it. There's no gears in them anymore, they're direct drive, the turbines they're using, so they're a lot quieter.
Is there a noise standard that should be included in the ordinance? For minor?
I don't think it's necessary, I mean, the minor ones, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with them, I have friends that have farms and they have them on, they use them for water pumps and different things, and there's people that use them for electricity just to use for their
So
homes.
generally across the country, no one has a noise
Yeah.
standard for minor.
The noise standard is less than 34 decibels.
Yeah.
Oh, you found that?
Yeah.
And for the state, from the state guidelines. Or are you looking at the major?
It's in the major, that's the major.
That's in the major.
No major adjustment.
But it wasn't addressed in the minor.
Right, but 30, I mean, if it's less than 34 decibels for the major, then,
Us talking is at 70 decibels. Normal conversation is at 70 decibels. I'm speaking at 70 decibels right now.
We're speaking at 90.
I'm hard of hearing.
Is that 34 decibels at the property line, or is that 34 decibels standing right
That's the property line. We were under that one, he was trying, Mark was trying to get a reading, and I think right next to it, we were getting a reading about, what, 60 maybe?
Yeah, right under
We
it.
we were talking about it, but they're very quiet actually, except that one had a cooling system that uses an air conditioner, which they don't use any longer. They're air cooled now, so they're quieter than they, without that. You get more of the whoosh, I think, was more annoying than the loudness of it. But does the board want to make a decision on the setback tonight, or do you want to?
are we going through the whole thing?
Well, let's try to get, this is the only thing that seems to be on the minor that we
Joe, let me
don't
make
have
a-
any. Go ahead, what?
I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
that the setbacks for the minor be 1.5 times the property line.
What?
The setback for the,
You mean the height of the...
yes, I'm sorry, yes, okay?
Height to the tip.
Then what did I say?
Property line.
No, oh, but I'm saying, so the placement would be 1.5 times from the property line
Of the height.
Oh, I
of the
see.
height.
Yeah, because
So we can't put it, yeah,
it
we
has to
can't
fall
put it,
within the
right,
property.
within the property, okay? I should have said it differently, sorry.
But that's okay.
To the tip of the blade height?
To the tip of the, oh, that's what state law is, so that's it.
I second.
Any discussion?
That's minimum setback, so manufacturer says more.
Right, oh yeah, that's already in
That's
there.
in there, so.
Yeah, so you're not trying to intrude on your neighbor. So on the minor, it's 100 feet, what's the blade height?
You could have a 40-foot wind turbine on a minor.
No, I'm just, what is the blade?
It says,
I'm sorry?
it says hub height plus rotor diameter.
Okay, so what is that?
Well, hub height plus
The
Rotor.
blade.
rotor,
It's
wait,
not the blade, it's the rotor diameter.
but the diameter is 2 times the blade then, right? 'Cause isn't diameter like the whole way through?
Yes, so it'd have to be half of
Yeah, so it'd be half rotor diameter.
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Blade
it, or a
line,
radius.
Yeah.
what's half, yeah,
Radius.
what's plus
What's the hub height,
radius?
man?
Do radius.
The hub height would be 100 feet.
That's the height. Now
Plus
we need
the
the
radius.
blade.
Plus the rotor diameter.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at.
The rotor.
Well, if you measure it, when it's up top, it's gonna end up being half the distance anyway.
Well, on a minor, I'm sure the rotors are much smaller.
Can't be bigger than 100 feet.
Half the rotor.
They'll hit the ground.
All right, let's just do 1.5 times. 1.5 times from the property line, we'll figure out the math later.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that, we'll just, we'll do that, we'll put that in, this is just a work in process anyway. Now, do we want to do anything about the height? That was just a suggestion.
Wait,
Okay, so Ron moved, Rick
Okay,
seconded.
okay. All right, yeah, motion, that's right. We usually don't make motions. All right, all in favor of the 1.5 from the property line for the setback requirement?
Aye.
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 No.
All right, so setbacks. Are you taking notes? Because Juliana's gonna update this. So it's 1.5 times from the property line.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion as well, for discussion, to consider a radius, also radius requirement from any neighboring residential structures.
Okay, do you have a second?
Could you restate that?
A radius.
A motion to add a setback, a radius setback from any neighboring residential structures.
Yeah, a second.
Second, discussion.
For discussion,
For discussion,
Yeah.
I just want to raise it.
if it's from the property line, how could it get, I'm just questioning, if it's from the property line, how could it get close to his house?
No,
I'll vote for it, I just want to.
no, I just put it on the table because of Helen's concerns, again, maybe we want to consider, and I don't have a number in mind, I'm just throwing it out there, but maybe we want to consider a further radius from any residential.
Oh, no, but we have a side yard, what's our side yard, 35 feet?
50.
50, so no house could be closer, I'm wrong, with the variance they could be, okay? All right, just, yeah, let it go, let's.
But we could say, you have to be 2,000 feet from a residence, I'm not saying that should be the number, I'm just saying, we have the ability to keep it at least a minimum distance.
Let's leave your vote, your motion a second, let's vote. I don't want to, beat it to death.
So any further discussion now?
We're not adding we're just,
Why don't we,
moving to add it.
I think he wants to put a note in, so when we send this back to the planner, or the new planner starts working on this.
Just a placeholder for them to
Yes.
consider.
So we have, this is part of our discussion, so they're aware, because they're not here.
Got it.
So we gotta make sure
So we
whatever
can
we're
say,
discussing is
move
clear
to add some radius setback to
to residential structures.
neighboring residential structure, neighboring property residential structure is what I know.
Or to
How about, may I say real quick, any residential structure? Because you don't want it close to your house either.
You don't, but presumably you're not gonna put it next to your own house. You have control of that. Your neighbors- I mean, we could do that too.
For money, I'll do anything.
Let's
How's
take the
that?
property owner rights away.
But what if but think about that, what if the best place to site it is actually close to your house, even though it's away from everybody else? So that may hurt the property.
So we're gonna consider a setback to residential structure.
You have a motion, you have a
All
second.
right, we have a motion, we have a second, okay. All in favor of considering that?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna consider that also. All right. Did anybody have any concerns with the max height? It's a moot point.
I have a concern. We're saying the max height 100 feet,
Yeah, that's,
but we're
For
saying,
minor.
these are minors.
but we're also saying it has to, cannot exceed maximum building height, which we already know is less than 100 feet.
No.
It's a different structure. We know the reason for the building height was what Gordon said about,
So it does not have to
say
be,
it's constrained.
it can exceed maximum building height.
As-
Right, because with a variance.
With a
that's what it
variance,
is.
though.
So we're gonna require every minor to get a variance?
Well, obviously, we have to look at our zoning ordinances and update that, so it doesn't affect every structure on the property.
So why don't we just remove that maximum building height from the, that requirement. That it
Oh,
has to
yeah.
be-
That's a good
That's a
idea.
good point.
If we just remove that, then,
Yeah.
and instead we cap it at 100 feet,
Right, that's
then we're not requiring every single person to come to
Yeah.
the variance.
Yeah, good point.
So we're gonna remove that. It would be 100 feet. Now, that would be to the center of the house, or is that total?
Did you say it has to be total?
Yeah, it's half height plus half the rotor diameter, or the radius.
Yep.
I think we'll do is we'll see do a little more research on the actual size and we'll put that in. But we're gonna do it at 100 feet or to
You said you researched it 100 feet was.
that's what they said they had.
But is that 100 feet to the blade or to the?
I don't know, that's why I
That's a
talked to
question.
myself
Maybe
about
that's
that.
confirm
I
that.
think it's to the center of the rotor.
So then maybe we should do the math and add that blade height as well.
Right, so that would be 125 feet, right?
We need
Well, we don't
to
know
just as
exactly.
because we don't.
Just make a notation that,
Yeah, that's it.
you know,
But that's something we're gonna consider, and that's what we just making notes, that's what we're trying to do here. So, okay, so we'll just make a motion to add a max height on the minor turbines. Do you have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
I'm sorry, who made what's the motion?
I made a motion to consider a maximum height after research of the minor wind turbine.
Mhm.
I second.
And second was to review discussion. Okay, all in favor?
I,
Right.
All right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't actually make a motion to remove maximum building height from,
No, you just
You
suggested
just
it. I
suggested
don't
it.
think you need to make a motion. You just suggested it and people agreed. I crossed it off. Like, no, I didn't.
boy, what power you have.
Well, we don't, when we work through an
That
ordinance, we don't have to have a motion for every change.
No, that makes
We
sense.
usually discuss it
It
discuss
doesn't
it and get a,
But you know, this way, Joe, it does give
Right, that we
the
know.
interim planner
right,
of how these
Yeah, we
things
can
are
vote on
moving
it.
across the board versus just we had this discussion.
no, that's fine. Why don't you make a motion, Sergio, to remove that, please?
okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to remove the requirement that the minor wind turbine has to meet maximum building height.
You have a second?
Second.
Second by Ron, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think everything else looks good, everybody happy with the minor at this point? Do we need anything else? I think we look good. All right, now we're gonna start looking at the major wind turbines. Does anybody wanna go first?
Let me say this, why don't we work on the differences between the minor and the major? Because, like everybody said, there's some of these things that are just gonna fall in the same place. What are the major differences?
Well, a minor wind turbine designed to primarily service the property on which the turbine is located with an output of 100 kilowatts or less. A major solar, it says solar, I don't know why, wind turbine designed primarily to sell electricity to a utility supplier, or a wind turbine with an output exceeding 100 kilowatts or exceeding 20% of the net buildable area, i.e. the total area of the applicable lot minus setbacks, vegetative buffers, and wetlands. No, that's what they have as their definition.
So, yeah, what would we want to change?
Well, not that, we're gonna look at the ordinance that applies.
Well, I mean,
Oh, there,
what
that
I'm saying is that, does anybody want to add or change that
definition.
statement? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked in the beginning if anybody had any problems with that, as far as the, the definitions. And I think most of this came right out of the state. State's guidelines. If I'm not mistaken, if you read through this and you read the ordinance, pretty much you can find most everything that's in our ordinance in the state guidelines. And we could add into the definition of what the height is of a major. I mean, obviously, a major is definitely much larger, average of 400 to 500 feet, I believe. And you know, the average height, do they vary?
They vary. The shortest commercial turbines in the state now are, well, so the Bay Commission has shorter turbines, but there are modified tower height, these are in the flight path of the airport. But the shortest certified tower that's in the state is the 415 feet.
Can you identify yourself?
My name's Hannah Marini, I work for Wind Energy Development.
So the question becomes, what does the town want to change? Or what does anybody here think needs change from,
As far as the ordinance, well, that's what we're here to discuss.
well, that's,
So let's start at the beginning. We'll start here, and we have the major, right? So we get to the major wind turbines. Now, a major wind turbine requires in all zones minor land development approval from the planning board and a special use permit from the zoning board of review pursuant to General Law 452361. Now, if the major wind turbine has an output of greater than 500 kilowatts, or it exceeds 40% of the net buildable area of the lot on which it is located, then such major wind turbine shall require major land development approval from the planning board and a special use permit from the zoning board of review in all zones pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 452361. A major wind turbine shall require a building permit prior to construction and adhere to the following. And this is, I think, that's all we're gonna go through. The only thing that jumped out at me is, should there be a difference? Should we have major for any major wind turbine? Or should we allow the smaller major turbines just to go through the minor wind development? That was something that jumped out at me, is why are we allowing, still, its output is less, but it's still the same size structure, I believe, because it's got a smaller generator on it, it doesn't make it any, you know, it's still as much visual effect, I think. So should that go through the major also? That was a thought, so that's why we'll put it out to the board and just get some discussion going here on that.
I think, yes.
I would agree.
That should be treated the
Because,
same.
yeah, you're saying it's a major, it's a major.
Right,
you know?
well, because.
Now you're gonna create a whole new category.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's a little smaller output, but it's still the same type of road. So they should both be a major land development. Could I have a motion to that effect?
I make a motion that there be no difference between the kilowatt output of a generator produced electricity for grid. How's that sound? Very good? For the grid.
What proportion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't, you
Move
know,
that
for
a
money.
major,
just-
you move that a major land development be required for any
Any
wind
major wind-
turbine.
Right,
Yeah,
depending on its output is not,
No.
yeah.
So
Do you need a
the major
motion if
land
it already
development.
says that?
I'm sorry?
Is
In the beginning,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Explain it to that lawyer, will you?
They don't pay attention,
This lawyer can't read, obviously.
I got some glasses over here.
All right. Now, does everybody understand the motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second, by Sergio. Okay, any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You say aye?
Oh, because I was reading, but I thought
Oh, I thought I heard. All right.
So, I have a question. So we have all these offsets, and really, we don't know where windmills can be located because of the offsets. And I mean, from the town as a whole, we don't have a map or anything that shows where these can be situated. Like, for example, I live on top of a hill and my lot's 400 feet wide, and so I could never put a major windmill up there. Not that I'd want to anyway, but, so there's all kinds of areas in the towns, because the setbacks where these aren't gonna be able to be installed. But should we know that before we pass an ordinance? What the impact's
Well,
gonna be?
We're not passing an ordinance, we're discussing an ordinance and trying to get input on it to see how we want to word it and,
Yeah.
you know.
We don't know what the impact of the town is, really, as a
Right.
whole.
We're just trying to get some thoughts together and then, you know, when we get a planner on board, we can try to, you know,
Rick, to your
make
point,
sure everything's proper.
if you wanted one, after we build the ordinance with the setbacks, and you would contact them and say, hey, will you come and build a wind turbine on my property? They're gonna come out and cite it and say, there's not enough wind here. So, are you asking them to do a study before we build an ordinance, of the whole town before we build an ordinance?
No, no.
So how would we cite it?
Yeah,
Because they're not gonna, oh,
I spoke to Mark about this. So, he was suggesting that your company would be willing to map the entire town for the feasibility, but that would be in consideration that you were actually gonna be able to.
I thought he was referring specifically to town property, so I think this is what you were talking about
Right.
earlier, saying that, you know, in a lot of towns, there's been discussion about, you know, before passing an ordinance, let yourselves be the, kind of the trial. Let's pick a really good site that meets, you know, the state guidelines that the town owns, and then you can actually see what the impacts are, what the complaints are. You know, we would of course cite it so that there was no shadow flicker on anybody, no noise implications, everything would be underground, so things like that, just using the absolute best practices, and then you build an ordinance based off your own experiences rather than, and this is what, I'm summarizing what Mark was saying, rather than just kind of picking what other places have done without, because if you don't actually cite what goes on in the town and how it works here, for example, I live down in the southern part of the state. It is very quiet in Foster. This is probably, that I go all over the place. It's probably the quietest town I've ever been. Just like you step outside and there's no noise. Ever. The peepers, right. But if there's no peepers, it is quiet. So there's different, you know, but there's also the lots are very large, they're far apart, there's lots of unbuildable areas, like you were mentioning, every town has its unique characteristics, so it's hard to kind of just pick and choose from what other towns, states, countries have done, and a lot of times it may make sense to actually pick the single best location that you have control over and study it based on your own experiences and through a very specific Foster lens.
I
So
didn't
that's kind of
think,
what he was getting at.
I didn't think it was restricted to town land. I thought they
Yeah.
were looking at the town as a whole based on elevations or where the wind studies show it's good or where there's infrastructure, electrical infrastructure that's gonna support the location without as much of an investment.
Yeah.
I understand pretty much what she said. I was thinking, when I heard him
Well,
talk, it was the Nike site would be what
It's
we
not
did.
big enough.
But,
It's not big enough.
well,
I know he was speaking,
it's hot.
he was also saying that he would look, you know, for even private properties that would be compatible, I believe, you know, the size of lots that
Yeah.
actually could, you know, they be able to handle something like that. And of course, it has to be, you know, the hills and in the right place for the winds to be.
The town owns no single piece of property that would sustain a 1.5 times the length on a.
That was the conclusion of that
Yes.
conversation.
So we don't know if we do this ordinance, if we're talking about building 25 windmills, or 500?
Or none.
Or none.
So, Rick,
It's probably not none.
did you wanna make a motion?
It's the case
to
with
table
anyone
this
that's-
Until we get more input?
Well, you gotta clarify what he's willing to do.
Right, I know, we can do that. That's what I was gonna do.
Okay, you
I
wanna
was
take-
gonna touch base with Mark and see, what they're willing to do.
There's a spot on 142A, Old Plainfield Pike, there's a big line with 47 acres. I might have the spot for you.
Well, I was actually talking to Mark.
Helen,
Manager,
you've never seen it.
his name is?
Yeah, that's our civil engineer,
Right,
yeah.
and he was talking to me, and there was some discussion about smaller lot. And he said, usually, they need 30, 40 acres to build a wind turbine. But depending on the abutting properties, if it's open space or something, they can eliminate some of the setbacks and go
Right.
closer to property lines, because there's no buildings on the properties. So sometimes a smaller lot will work depending on the surrounding area. So there's a lot of variables, obviously, to be considered.
That would be handled in a variance on an individual case, I would imagine.
Right.
So how about I make a motion
Can
to
I
take,
weigh in?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what Anna said was very wise in terms of designs having different characteristics that they can. And, and as you know, the quiet, the country quiet, which means deafening crickets and things like that, are something that people really notice about Foster. Another thing about Foster, which is valuable and which has been noted by many people, is the dark skies. And I did not get to go with you all, so I went down to West Greenwich to the facility down there, and toured around there. And then I talked to the people around there, and, people had various reactions to having the windmill there. The one reaction, the one negative reaction, which was repeated by both supporters and detractors, was that those windmills, because of their height, all have a flashing red light. And everybody noted that, and everybody felt that it had an impact for them. And so I think that that's something that we would definitely want to consider as a part of when we're going forward.
Now, you mentioned that was something that came to mind. I didn't even note it at this point. I know when we had the cell towers, the red light on top was a big concern because they were under 200 feet, they don't require it.
That's correct.
But I was wondering, the turbines must require a light because of their
Yes,
height.
they will, the ones in East Greenwich do. And that was the thing.
Well, anything,
Some people liked them, some people didn't like them, some people, had reactions to the flicker. The compression thing was more, nobody complained about noise.
the aggravation down the ocean, there's that lighthouse that keeps shining through my window. That flicker really annoys the hell out of me.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question on this.
Okay.
I'm just wondering why the current language now requires both a major land development approval and a special use permit. I feel like that could be an excessive procedural hurdle that maybe isn't necessary. I also, I think, together in connection with that, looking at the possible zones where we would permit this, and obviously it's all listed as requiring a special use permit. A suggestion maybe to eliminate some of that procedural hurdle and make it easier for folks to, slightly easier for folks to do this would be maybe not require a special use permit. However, instead of determining what zones to permit it in, maybe we should suggest an overlay zone for wind turbines. And maybe that can be based on a study of surrounding areas. So the overlay zone may incorporate some of GBN, some of AR, but it will totally exclude other inappropriate areas. And so maybe we can sort of nip some of what a special use permit would look at in the bud, by instead suggesting an overlay zone, maybe based on a feasibility study. So we can sort of answer those questions up front, eliminate that requirement, still have the major land development, which we're looking at all the other issues and making sure they're compliant, and that may streamline the process.
Who's gonna pay
I
for the
believe
feasibility study?
Somewhere that
What,
Who's gonna pay for this feasibility study?
if someone wants to do it for us?
should not
What's the
require-
incentive for them to do it?
Should not require both a special use permit and a major land development, but should instead fill in that
Well,
blank.
we maybe, might
Use an
want,
overlay.
we may want to consider using an overlay district instead.
Yeah,
No, I think the reason that is worded that way is this is mirroring the solar ordinance, which includes that. I think when Juliana wrote this, she used state guidelines along with our solar ordinance. So a lot of similarities there, and that's probably why. That was something that everybody wanted with the solar, especially use permit, which gave people let another board review the application to get
But the issues,
somebody else's.
the issues, you know, for folks with solar and the issues with wind are very different. So, maybe address up front, just a suggestion. you're right.
No, that's fine, good idea.
So Joe, you
So
want to take,
before, well, just before, did anybody have anything that they wanted to add that we can consider at this time before? Just in case they have some minor changes. I mean, I had a couple things, but it's not that important at this point. Through the discussions at four, I was looking over here in Coventry, I believe it is, and the access roads that they put in are side of an interstate of stone that they go in. When I talked to Mark, he said that after the construction, they don't need those roads any longer, that they reduce the size for just maintenance, and, you know, they'll put trees back in or whatever, and then, you know, to let it grow in again. I didn't notice them doing it over in Coventry at this point.
well, they're still, I think they're still adding in Coventry, aren't they? They're still adding.
They did respread a lot of the topsoil along the sides of their roads too.
I just didn't know if it was something we should put in the ordinance as a requirement, or would that just be something we would do during the approval process, you know, that they, you know, eliminate those construction roads and make it more friendly, you know, as far as to the environment, get it down to a normal size.
Downsizing.
You know, so it's just a maintenance room. I know he said they did that, and I just wondered if it was something we wanted to put in the ordinance to make sure it gets done, or if we can do it as something on the approval, based on the approval, based on that. You know. But once it's built, it's kind of hard to make sure they do it if it's not in the ordinance.
So you want to make a motion to include it in the ordinance, or you just want to?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, maybe, you know, just, it said access roads for construction shall be rebuilt to minimal size after completion of initial builds.
Construction is complete.
Yeah, initial build.
Return to, service accessibility size.
Right, yeah. I just figured, you know, that would go in the, so we were in here.
I think it's good to put it.
You know, I just thought it might be good to have it in part of the ordinance, just doing it.
Okay.
I just read that, can I make a motion to include that in the ordinance?
I said Joe recommended, did you
All right.
remove?
I'll make a motion.
One second.
And Rick will second it. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? So we'll add that to the major, and said we'll do a study try to find out, touch base with Mark. And possibly that time a new planner comes in and they're good with GIS and do some mapping for the town and they can do more liaisons.
Okay, I'll make a motion,
Okay.
I'll make a motion on the table. There are people here waiting for the other ordinance.
Hang on.
Okay.
Do I have a second? Excuse me.
There should be something in this about the impact on wildlife, the health issues involved, and also the effect on abutting and surrounding properties. There's plenty of evidence about all of this.
And so you wanted to,
There should be something in the ordinance addressing, you know, the damage that this is going to do to wildlife and to surrounding property values and the health issues, because somebody is going to end up getting sued.
Environmental impact. Wildlife. I know when I looked in the state guidelines, it actually says that the ordinance isn't meant to address those, and that's something that the DEM does.
Well, that's bizarre.
I know.
The ordinance tells me that this is left up to municipalities. It was determined that way by the state.
When I was looking through the guidelines, there was something actually in there, I knew that it's,
Mr. Chairman, municipalities do have the ability to require more stringent,
Yeah, I would agree with what he's.
yeah, they just can't go
Oh,
all the years.
right.
Listen, I don't know how, okay, that we can decide whether a deer is gonna eat under a turbine or not. I know a cow will. I don't believe that the rabbit is gonna worry about,
They're gonna be fenced out anyway.
yeah, so I don't know what the impact to wildlife is.
Birds and bats.
The bird issue is not an issue.
That is an issue.
Well, that's we have a difference of opinion.
No, it's not opinion, that's science.
Well, okay,
That's bona fide science, peer-reviewed studies
okay,
by the Fed and states.
okay. We did ask
yeah, I think it's.
specifically about birds.
The developers,
Rick brought that up.
yeah, there was some information from DEM here about bats.
I think what I said is the table that the state prepared is just about useless, because unless there's some sort of tie-in with the relative surface areas of contact, it shows that windmills have a very small risk, but if there's only 1 million square feet of windmills and there's 1 trillion square feet of buildings in glass, and without that tie-in to the surface area, it doesn't really
All right.
mean anything. I think it's designed to make you feel good that you're doing something that's not gonna impact wildlife.
Well,
When in fact, it probably has a high rate.
You know, I read.
he did say that windows, house windows and building windows kill more birds and bats than,
Yeah, but again, that's per surface area. I mean, what the rate is
Listen,
meaningful.
I've read,
Mr. Allen just asked us.
I know, I'm
It's
gonna
incorporated.
address this because
Incorporated.
everybody's speaking, too many people are speaking at once.
once.
I want to clarify that there are studies out there and they vary in their opinions. So, you know, it's difficult because it's really new technology and they don't really know the effects. There's some that say that there's a large conflict, you know, with different species, and others say there isn't, but, you know, it's difficult to determine until you make sure you have the right information.
all right,
So it's something we can add in here and look at when we're forming this.
May I say, okay, about studies, all right? If you listen to people, they don't want you to feed birds in the winter because your cats will get them. But nobody does a study how many birds die in the winter when there's complete snow cover and there's nothing to eat.
But on the other side of that.
Well, so
on
this
the
is
other side of that,
a moot discussion.
when we went down and there was a city in Rhode Island that doesn't allow wind turbines. And the reason for it was because of the migrating birds. And it was dangerous to the migrating birds. It wasn't that they would run into it, but it scares them away. So there is evidence that they do affect migratory patterns of species. So this is not it's very,
Well, let's,
important to consider this.
the big
Especially
picture.
living in
All right,
Foster, a
the
nice
big
quiet town.
picture is, if you want green energy, if deciding, I'm not gonna have an argument with Rick about cost, all right? If you wanna do the best thing for the planet, is it better to have coal-burning electric plants that kill everything, or is it better to have wind turbines that screw up with the migratory bird routes? It's probably in the end, in the big picture, better to have green energy so everything can survive. And if you know anything about wildlife, we had this discussion on, some woman stood at the council meeting the other night and read a big long thing how this thing was gonna affect the turkeys, the deer, and the foxes. As soon as you put up a shed, a fox will dig a hole under it and live there. And in New Jersey, you can sit on your back porch and watch the deer come up to your back porch and eat your bushes. They don't care that your house is there or not. So, wildlife adjusts.
So do you need a motion to
May
include
I-
those things?
I think we can just, we'll definitely include them. I mean, we'll look into it and see if we can work something into the ordinance to address those concerns. And do some more research on it and get some sustainable numbers that are, properly calculated.
May I say, a DEM biologist suggested that we require monitoring of bird and bat mortality for at least 3 years after construction.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table.
Okay, we'll make a note of that. Paul, thank you. All right, we have a motion to table at this time.
Ron just moved.
I did.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I know, we have a motion. I said do we have a
Sorry.
second?
Holly.
You guys are getting testy now. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Do you have anything for us? Marijuana? Forgot you were here.
Do you have any marijuana?
All right, thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. So I hope everybody brought their sample ordinances from last time from other cities and towns. But I just wanted to put together a quick kind of guideline of, so that you can kind of take it issue by issue and figure out what you want, what you don't want, so that when the planner or myself or whoever's going to start drafting this ordinance has an idea of what you guys want to do. So,
Thank you.
and I thought maybe you can just use it as a discussion guideline.
So for tonight, we're just gonna concentrate on medical marijuana. We're not gonna deal with recreational at this point.
I had put both, so,
They're both
and they're
up.
differentiated, yeah.
But I think the council asked us to request to the planning board craft an ordinance addressing medical marijuana and foster in coordination with the police chief and the solicitor. If the board so chooses to move forward with such an ordinance, follow practice. So it wasn't really requested that we did the other one at this point. I think this is gonna take up enough time tonight, so we'll do.
What time are we gonna go to tonight, Joe?
Oh.
8:41.
Hey, no,
What's your take on this one?
all right. So
Hey, Paul.
everybody's got their ordinances, right, from the other towns, do them?
No electric fence, birds after birds.
Yeah, my electric fence is just killing those birds when they
Oh,
sleep.
it does. If they grab the post and the fence at the same time, I find them hanging upside down.
All right, so,
It's either a tree limb or a bird, shorten it
now you,
I haven't segued to the fiberglass bird safety.
now I noticed the definitions, you have them on here. Now, in a lot of the ordinances, they list all the definitions, some only list the definitions that pertain to their ordinance. I think if you list all of them, it's a good idea. My personal view, like, I think Gloucester, that's all the definitions, we just it's good to have them, even if you're not gonna,
Right,
you know, have any language pertaining to that.
right.
So I don't know, if the board agrees, you know, that we just have definitions for all the different sections of licensed cultivators, residential personal cultivation, residential caregivers, and so on. Does everybody feel that we should just include all the definitions?
Yes.
That makes sense.
What do you think, sir?
I don't.
Just the ones that we're gonna,
I'm opposed to that. Personally, I find it frustrating that something's defined in ordinance or statute but then isn't actually addressed. Because there may be a suggestion that may have unintended consequences.
but are they addressed in the use table? If they're addressed in the use table as not allowed,
Well, that's what I mean,
so it's addressed in the ordinance in the use table usually, correct?
Right, so there are definitions that are in the actual Medical Marijuana Act that talk about, that are more than just the types of cultivators / compassion centers. So you may not need, a definition for a debilitating medical condition. You might not need all the definitions that are in 28.63, but you definitely should have all of the definitions for cultivators and the compassion center, so you can prohibit or allow them.
Correct. Well, these are the ones that would pertain to our ordinance, are the ones that are listed here. But
the Bristol and West Greenwich, I can't remember with the other ones, but, they only list the compassion center and the employer.
Right.
even though they don't allow the others, but they list them in the use table, I believe, don't they?
Right, they're in the use table.
But they don't have a definition of what they are, and they're not allowed to.
I think you also might want to go through the definitions, and I can give you guys a full copy of the statute. If there's anything in the actual Slater Act that you want to roll over into your definitions.
Chief has a question.
May I suggest, it sounds silly, but the planning department gave us a list of definitions, and then I'm looking, your licensed cultivators is your first, licensed cultivator is her fifth, and if we get all the documents running the same way, it'd be a lot easier to look at them.
Well, this was the preliminary summary.
Yeah, I know, I'm just,
And at this point, the solicitor's gonna draft us an ordinance, a draft ordinance based on our comments tonight. So to see what, she's trying to get a feel for what we want in the ordinance that'll help her to be able to produce a draft ordinance that we can review and then discuss it from there.
I think that the reason that they're all in the summary is because they correctly, in my case, assumed that we might not know what all the things were, and therefore we made a valiant effort to try and educate us.
for discussion, I'm gonna make a motion that licensed cultivators due to from the definition of the planning department, does everybody have the planning department one?
The summary.
The summary, yes, all right. From that definition, be allowed in the town of Boston. And you want me to read it? So everybody has, all right? Licensed cultivator can supply compassion centers and grow under a license from Rhode Island DBR.
Can supply only compassion centers.
Right.
And grow into
Right.
that, okay. The only else.
Yeah, only, I'm sorry, I left that to one over. Yeah, thank you, Joe. I can't read. So I got a motion, any second, or are you gonna discuss this stuff?
Is that the way we want to go about this? Is kind of like that?
Yeah, can
Does
you
the
do it all at
solicitor
once?
feel that's a proper description?
I mean,
I mean,
you need to have a little bit more detail, but that's essentially a licensed cultivator. You do have to have a license from the Rhode Island DVR, and it is a large-scale facility because you are providing, I mean, it's definitely a commercial facility because you're providing to capacity.
Okay, let me clarify. I make a motion that we accept licensed cultivators in the town of Rhode Island,
The town of Foster.
in the town of Foster, state of Rhode Island, after, with a new definition and a further,
More details.
more detailed definition from the solicitor.
No, this is, you're accepting a licensed cultivator as a definition, you know,
Right, and she,
just to clarify. I'm just making sure that you're saying you, I don't want to get misconstrued. So the definition for licensed cultivators, okay. There's a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
No.
well, we have a discussion.
Discussion, I'm sorry.
We're just defining it, right?
Getting there.
I'm sorry, are we, Ron moved that they be allowed in Foster?
No, that's what I asked, to clarify the definition of licensed cultivators.
I'm sorry,
Go in
Ron.
the ordinance, isn't that what we
Ron,
decided?
did you?
Let me
Wait a
withdraw my
second.
motion and we'll do it some other way.
All right, why don't we do this? I'll read the ones that the solicitors recommended that we have in our ordinance are the licensed cultivators. All in favor of the licensed cultivators definition being in our ordinance? Say.
Aye.
Just let's get a basic idea if everybody's all right with that.
So you're polling the board,
We're pulling the board
okay.
for each of these so we can get through them. Now, these are definitions, because anything that's gonna be in the ordinance, whether it's allowed or not allowed, has to be defined.
All right,
These are what are gonna be, are potentially gonna be in our ordinance. All right, so everybody in agreement with that? Sergio? Hello?
I am in agreement with that, your statement, but I just think there's probably an easier way to go about what I know you're trying to do right now.
all right,
One by
yes.
one. I think we can probably just all agree that these uses listed here, we're gonna include them in our ordinance.
Right.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to say, so I was gonna just say if it's in the ordinance, it would have a definition for it.
Correct.
And these aren't the definitions, but these are the things we're gonna define.
Correct.
So all these things that are in this list of definitions should be included in our.
I think, so I think what you're trying to say is, these are the uses that we're gonna address in our zoning ordinance.
Correct.
Approve or disapprove. These are the uses that will be addressed, and all of them will be defined in the ordinance. I agree.
So we'll accept the definitions as they, and she will give us definitions, and we can review them, and if we want to add anything, or add anything, we'll do them at that time.
The chief is trying to be recognized.
Did you want something, Chief?
No, I'm just gonna make a statement that, you know, I don't know if you have Gloucester's ordinance in front of you, which they just adopted. They have the 10 definitions, you know, within their ordinance.
I had sent that to everybody, it wasn't from the planner, but I had sent it to the board.
Yes.
Yeah, we have it.
And again, just to use it as an example and to speed things along, or, you know, or to use that.
Well, we're not gonna define them at this point, we're just gonna decide which definitions are gonna be included. So the definitions are not, obviously whatever pertains to the ordinance.
Right, and they would be compliant with the definitions set forward by the state. But I think I had listed those there to also guide the discussion, and you need to address each
Right.
of those type of cultivators.
That's what
So
I
basically-
suggested last time. So if
We're
we're,
gonna determine each cultivation option. If allowed or prohibited, we're allowed.
Right.
Okay. So at this point, licensed cultivators. Now, we have the definitions in other ordinances, you can look at them there. Any discussion if they should be allowed or prohibited?
I think they should be allowed. back to where we started about 10,
Anything
15
else?
minutes ago.
How big are the facilities? I don't know.
That isn't defined in this, I don't think.
No, it's really up to the cultivator on how large or small an operation they want
But
to
it
have.
has to have a market.
The market is the compassion center.
Right, and so they're only gonna accept
Right,
so much, so I don't know how big your operation's gonna be if you didn't have a place to sell it. And then, you know, then the police are gonna look at it as an illegal operation.
Can I ask the solicitor a question? What type of cultivation are we required by law to have in the town?
you have to allow a patient to cultivate,
So it's residential, personal cultivation?
yes,
So we have to have that, so that's
Yes.
a definite.
yes.
Hers is,
No, I guess there's.
And that's the only thing that
And-
we're required by towns, allow us.
I think you also have to allow the residential caregiver.
here, take this.
It goes to a right, allowed by right
Yes,
at this point.
yes.
Other than that, it's up to the town.
Which are both already in Foster,
Excuse me?
which are both already in Foster.
Correct.
Yeah, obvious.
Now, Chief, do you have any thoughts on the other types of cultivators?
Yeah, and again, I know the towns, states, cities, municipalities look at, the money aspect of it. I think I forwarded you what the Chief of Police Association is passing around, the cost, the health concerns, the money concerns, that, again, they're still doing studies as far as what these are doing, as far as workplace absenteeism, drug driving, just from the police side of it, investigating the B&Es. Just recently, within the last year, we've had 3 B&Es, that were targeted, the personal cultivations. These all come to a financial cost to the town. Officers call back in for overtime, officers call back into, for court cases. The solicitor, or the attorney general's office may be involved. And again, I don't see a benefit. My recommendation would be just to allow personal
Out of here.
marijuana cultivation and, deny all other uses in town.
Right, so the residential personal and residential caregiver, which we are required by law.
Right, which we already have, which, that, again, you can drive around town and, you can smell them on just about every street.
So may I address the chief's concerns? Every time something comes up in the state of Rhode Island, no matter what it is, we have some group that are against it. When I moved to Rhode Island, it reminded me of New Jersey in 1960, in the 60s. People down the ocean, I've never seen so many people openly smoking dope on the street as I've seen down the ocean. All drugs go through waves, and in case you're wondering, I used to teach drugs and alcohol on the college level for numerous years. The cost to the communities trying to control what legislatures have made illegal substances is much larger through policing, through incarceration, through labeling people, than any initial costs that are going to come to individual police departments. And looking at Colorado, looking at other states that have decriminalized and used it as a money-making operation, if there's any state in the nation that needs some ability, now I'm moving over the line to legalization, to make money, it's the state of Rhode Island. We're 20 miles away from Massachusetts. That was 2 years ago. It's the #1 state in the nation for business opportunity. And we're here struggling. So I just read a study that Washington County in the state of Rhode Island is like number 3 in the nation for DUI arrests for marijuana. And but I don't know what, there was a percentage increase, but I don't know if there were any DUIs before that. And just Foster, Bill, you know everybody, not everybody, a large percentage of our population does smoke marijuana, all right? And it's illegal. So when it's illegal, you have to deal with it.
Yeah, it's just, Rhode Island already decriminalized it.
All right,
It's
but
a
so-
violation. It's
So
$150 fine.
I can't continue to support, in fact, I never supported the police efforts in criminalization. And this is an opportunity, a financial opportunity for this community and its citizens on their property to make money. So I don't agree with you at all.
Well, again, I know.
And they have to pay taxes.
I know towns,
right?
cities, states are all looking at
Right,
it.
and they have to pay taxes to build a new police station and hire new police.
Well, Ron, just to clarify, we were given the task
I know what our task is, Joe.
to take into consideration the police.
And I just have taken into his
And
consideration.
he's
I
a
don't
big
agree.
part of this ordinance, and his opinion matters to
To
the town.
you,
That the town council has requested
yes,
to
but,
look at this.
right, and so
And to take
I'm one of the
into
people on this
consideration-
board. I don't need you to lecture me on what I'm doing here.
Well, his opinion
Okay, all right,
matters
I think
quite
that
a
this
bit.
is not being productive, so maybe
Thank you.
continue.
To dismiss the chief's concerns is.
I don't think that's it. I mean, again, you guys all have your opinions.
Well, I agree with the chief personally.
Good for you. There you go.
But isn't all of this, it's just for medical marijuana, isn't it?
Right now, we're only talking about medical marijuana,
Which is
So-
already allowed.
which
It's already out
exactly, is already allowed, and you already have patient residential grows, caregiver residential grows, and
In Foster.
right, and throughout the state, and you can't prohibit that.
Yeah, yeah.
But what you can do is, if somebody is having a caregiver grow, or they're a patient and they're also a caregiver, some of them are pretty large scale, so you can go in and at least try to regulate, and I know that
That,
talked about
that's
fire
what I'd like
concerns
to
and
mention for
everything.
people that weren't here at the last meeting. I am a landlord, speaking as a taxpayer right now, a landlord, and I have people that rent from me that are caregivers for medical marijuana users. And I'm kind of set in a position where I'd like to see some oversight on it, because I can't step my bounds, because I have to be as a legal landowner, property owner and a landlord. We had a situation there over there the other day where we had a fire, and I actually had the chief go in, and he wouldn't let the fire department in and didn't want anybody to enter his property. As a landowner, landlord, I had to, because of that only one situation, I had the legal right, I believe, to tell the chief and the fire department to go into my house and inspect it. And during that, it's well known he's a medical caregiver, he had some oversight at that point, and I was informed that he was all within the legal limits. But that gave me comfort, knowing as a landlord that I know he's doing it, but he's doing it legally. Now, I have other concerns of all these lights they plug in, creating possibly a fire danger that I may get sued on as a landlord, that there should be some, it's out there, it's being done. I would like to have some oversight through the police, the fire, for public safety and property safety.
That's part of what we're working on. There's regulations to be imposed, like owner versus lease, landlord consent, the electrical, the fire chief inspections, all that, building codes.
And again,
That's all part of it. That
if
has
you
to be
have
addressed.
Gloucester's ordinance in front of you, and this just concerns personal marijuana cultivation, they do have, the fire marshal or the fire department inspects, the building inspector inspects. Gordon was the first firefighter on scene to a fire, and that's when we learned there was an illegal operation going on.
My shoulder still hurts.
And it was a result of overloaded circuits. They put, firefighters' lives at danger, all police officers' lives in danger. Again, so if it's allowed, Gloucester does have that, right in their ordinance, that the records are sealed, because again, we just don't want it general public, but, what the fire department does, what the building inspector does. So there is,
Oversight.
oversight on all these operations.
These are all part of our worksheet that we are considering. This is definitely something that
The plus doesn't allow a
is
licensed
gonna be included.
cultivators.
No,
They only allow personal, what is allowed current.
You mean, yeah, go ahead.
But he's concerned as a landlord, even with these people that have
Right.
by right residential personal, because they have license to grow their own personal or their caregiver. At this point, there's no oversight as far as the ability of the town to go in and inspect these
Everyone's
properties and make sure they're safe. So we can, even with this, having those two in the ordinance, we can include all these requirements for those people, so that the landlords are safe, they're aware of what's going on their properties. They're not,
Fire department, volunteer firefighters are safe.
Right.
We've seen these.
But so the question of whether we want to approve licensed cultivators is still up in the air.
Right.
I was inclined to support that, but I hear from the chief that it's a law enforcement problem because people try to break in and steal a product, or Chief, what are your main objections to the?
Well, and again, there's all kinds of studies, again, I believe I gave,
Yeah, I've got your document. I can.
yeah, the big document that, and again, the studies are gonna be for years to come. Again, the drug driving, the youth that is gonna be able, again, the youth has it now. But again, it's gonna be more readily available, or, again, our overtime.
I'm
It's
not
associated with-
specifically for licensed cultivators, it's for medical purposes. Is the problem security because people
Well,
are
again-
trying to break in and steal?
Well, again, right now, just recently, we had, 3 B&Es that were associated with, and again,
Cultivators.
again, legal,
Individuals?
legal operations.
No, illegal.
And,
If you legalize.
But not cultivators, right? You don't have any actual.
right, no, right, I mean, the personal,
Personal marijuana.
If you
Medical care.
legalize
Right, yeah.
things, you put on restrictions and inspections.
Correct.
If you make things illegalized, that's when they go underground, okay? So let me point out to you, I have a statistic for you. Last year, the war on drugs cost the American taxpayers $800 billion.
I'm not against it, I'm just concerned about oversight, and
That's what-
with anything, there should be proper oversight.
So legalization, registration, right?
Correct.
And oversight. That's what you're trying to accomplish here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
if I could
that gives some thoughts.
give you some thoughts. I believe some of the towns that are prohibiting licensed cultivators are wrong. I think they are missing a very crucial element, which is that in some respects, a licensed cultivator, in some respects, the town ordinance may be preempted by state law. The cultivation license is a little bit broad. It allows, for example, growing marijuana for medical use, as well as extracting oils for turning to medical products. The growing component, because it's a legal product, assuming the person has a properly duly issued license, I think is preempted under state law 452437 to be exact. That permits agriculture in any zone, in any town, notwithstanding what the zoning ordinance says. So, at least from that perspective, and without diminishing, and I'm sympathetic to the chief's concerns, and without diminishing the voicing those concerns. I think we need to be mindful of the fact that we are probably preempted from actually prohibiting licensed cultivators. So we should focus instead on appropriate regulation to help to mitigate some of those concerns and find another way to deal with it. Because outright prohibition, I don't think is going to get us anywhere. And if we don't address, if we don't properly regulate it, when the first case is brought and will be brought, where the court determines that it is in fact preempted, then we're going to be left with with no regulation. So I think the wiser move would be to really think through what the issues are, the concerns, and focus on regulating, focus on proper siting of some of these types of cultivation activities, and really just focus our energies there. If we, for example, a licensed cultivator that is doing extractions, that is not agriculture, so that would now fall into that preemption. But that may be something that we would permit only in wherever we permit industrial uses, for example. So by determining, licensed cultivator, for example, we actually have to slice and dice that definition, and by determining the type of activity that's being done, we can determine whether it's something that's permissible everywhere, or whether it's something that we can keep to a small location, which obviously if we keep it to a small location, it's a little bit easier for the police to monitor. With respect to the preemption and the agriculture component, because it is permitted everywhere by state law, we probably really want to focus on inspections, regulating. The DVR regulations surrounding it are already pretty stringent, but we can go beyond those. So that's, I think, what we need to focus on, going beyond that, requiring fire inspection, requiring police inspections, registration, whatever the case may be. I'm just saying those as examples. I think that's probably better and wiser use of our expertise.
So to summarize, you don't feel that you have jurisdiction over the licensed cultivator, that we don't have the right to prohibit that because state law supersedes.
I do not believe we have a right to prohibit, at a minimum, the agricultural component, so the growing of marijuana. So, since we cannot prohibit that, we've got marijuana in our town, regardless. So, correct. If they're not licensed, it's just an illegal activity.
Right.
So that's a non-issue. We're talking about licensed legal grows.
So if they have the license and they live in the town, it's
right. So because of that, I think, we need to focus on how do we regulate it, because it's going to be here one way or the other.
So it's something we gotta consider as cultivators.
But a licensed cultivator can do more than just, they might not be growing on site, so you do have to, I think, address, and that's the only one that can do other things. Everybody else has to be actually growing. But a licensed cultivator is typically a high-scale commercial operation, is very heavily secured. You're in a different realm than a cooperative grow, or 2 or 3 people putting some stuff in a basement or stuff like that. So I think that's probably one of you who are most heavily regulated and most heavily secured, because it's a large investment for them. So
That's my point about slicing and dicing the definition, because a licensed cultivator can do other activities.
Yes.
But with respect to the growing component, if a licensed cultivator is growing, we can't outright prohibit that.
I feel like that you are using licensed cultivator in a more broad term than the way that it's defined by the ordinance.
Because the statutes are, and we cannot carve out, we can't say a licensed cultivator is not someone who grows marijuana. Do you know what I mean?
Say that one more time. We can't say a licensed cultivator is someone who.
Is not someone who, we can't carve out the grower from the licensed cultivator. Because state statute permits a licensed cultivator to grow marijuana. So I can become a licensed cultivator and grow marijuana and not do any of the other activities that also require a cultivator license. So because we cannot prohibit that activity, we should focus on regulating.
So we could decide which zones it's allowed in, so say if it's in GBM or industrial
Well,
area.
the agriculture component, we actually can't even.
No, but as far
But
as.
definitely the other component, the other types of activities, we definitely can.
I'm a little perplexed because most of the other towns whose ordinances we have, you know, permit personal marijuana cultivation and caregiver cultivation,
State law.
and do not permit others. And the chief has told us that this is something that is, you know, and Ron said, and I'm sure correctly so, that, you know, anything that you prohibit, you know, requires being prohibited, but that the problem of extending marijuana growing in the town is a problem that will impact the town in terms of use of services of
But my point is that the towns that are prohibiting licensed cultivation outright, without narrowing what they're prohibiting, are, I think, making a mistake. Those are gonna become lawsuits.
I believe what Sergio, I understand what he's saying, because I've heard people discussing Gloucester's ordinance and saying that, you know, there's certain things that they're prohibiting that they legally don't have by right to do.
I don't think anybody's brought up the right to farm challenge yet, but at some point it will be, and in terms of medical marijuana, and
He stated the state statute that they're gonna use on that right to farm act.
And there's already 2 cases that have been decided that say legal cultivation of, legal growing of marijuana is agriculture. Pursuant.
Joe, the chief has his hand up.
I just saw there was something else to add. Under federal law, marijuana still remains illegal.
Jeff Sessions is gonna fix that.
What town was it
They'll be all set.
Did that, Middletown, I believe, passed a law saying that an ordinance that said that they won't allow anything that's not allowed by federal law or something, and they're gonna get around that marijuana by, as far as whatever federal law doesn't allow. I don't know, they don't, I think that was for the recreational use problem.
But a local ordinance is always preempted by state law, so that we cannot get around that state law.
But a lot of the states that are allowing, medical marijuana is allowed by federal law, isn't it?
No.
No.
No, and so states are, so, but they're doing the same fight with the recreational, they're saying it's against federal law, and now they're not gonna fund states because they have laws that aren't consistent with federal law. So it's kind of.
Yeah, but state law supersedes any town ordinances.
Right, the towns.
You don't even have to go to the federal.
The state's not following through what the federal government says.
I know I've told you Bill Cosby's joke from the 70s. The only people in town that can't find any drugs are the cops.
So we need to decide how late we're going to go because it's 9:15.
All right.
5 acres on a nickel farm in the 70s.
Now, besides the licensed cultivators,
Remember
is
that one?
something
You
we're
were around
going
then.
to address.
Nichols Farm off the Shippey Schoolhouse.
As far as the compassion
4 or 5
center,
acres, dump truck loads.
any thoughts on compassion centers?
compassion centers have to be by legislation. So the state has to essentially allow for another compassion center. So chances are, that's very political.
Yeah.
So chances of you getting one are, you know,
We've got John Bevilacqua, he'll take care of it.
But is it something we should address just in case one
you should,
is
yeah.
available?
Yeah.
Joe, excuse me, you have somebody in the audience.
Jeff?
You guys are focusing on the passive side of this. It's what kind of license you're gonna have, what the definitions are. You're focusing on making sure that landlords are safe by electrical inspectors and building inspectors. All of that is a cost to the town, and you're not paying attention to what you may want to do to generate some income out of this to pay for those costs. Okay? You're gonna increase the work burden on our part-time inspectors.
No, they get charged for inspections, are charged.
Do they now?
Yeah.
But either way, you're gonna have, you're setting ordinances to control what they do, but those things are gonna cost. You're gonna enforce it, there's a cost associated with that. So if you're gonna do that, you might as well jump on the bandwagon and make a couple of bucks on it. I mean, I'm not real happy about the dope. The idea of all of us at our age discussing legalizing dope is stupid to me. But if you're gonna do it, let's get it paid for.
Well, we're just considering the medical marijuana, which has been legal. But the licensed cultivators, I don't know if there'd be any income to the town if we had a licensed cultivator in town. I don't know where the town would make money, but that's
It'll be a significant tangible effect.
Yes.
on the marijuana.
Very, very, very high tangible effect. Potential for very high.
Until the state puts a cap on it. right?
Well, they haven't
They do
yet,
with
so
everything. Once we start getting tax money, they find a way to take it over.
if you look at the
Commercial tax
recreational,
rate,
or the adult cannabis use proposed legislation, they have carved out a very hefty sum for themselves and a small amount for the towns. So they've already done that in that proposed legislation, so they haven't done it here yet. And obviously, you can add fines for violations. You have to be reasonable.
When Ron gets back, we'll decide if we want to go forward with the licensed cultivators and how to work as a whole. I'm just,
I don't even know why I'm there's no rhyme or reason to what I was typing in,
No,
but
no, no.
apparently that really should have been at the end. My fault.
you're all right, Ron, you're back. So you want to include the licensed cultivators. Sergio seems to think we don't have much of a choice. That's to include it in our ordinance and to possibly allow it or work out some language to protect the town as much as possible. So I think that's something that we're going to have to deal with in the ordinance. The rest of the board on it?
Yes.
Same thing, Alan? Do you agree? And do you think we can prohibit it? I mean, if there's a way, I'm sure. But we gotta cover our legal side of everything too. That's why the solicitor's involved in this.
Right.
So we'll get some language on that. And as far as allowing extraction and stuff like that.
And that's something
we can
completely-
prohibit that.
Yeah, the extraction versus the
Now,
cultivated.
is that something you'd rather discuss as the ordinance is formed? Would you like that information?
I mean, that's, some towns straight out prohibit all that extraction because the process, I think, is, unless it's done in an appropriate way, it can be dangerous, there are other concerns. So that's really,
That's
you know,
where
to
the
you
heat and
guys.
the fire.
Yeah, yeah.
To that end, yeah, I just want to reiterate that I think we're preempted with respect to
The growing.
the growing component only. So we could, if we wanted to, prohibit extraction altogether, which is also a licensed cultivator. That's why a licensed cultivator, again, we need to slice and dice it. I think there are multiple uses that fall under the licensed cultivator. I'm not suggesting we approve it or don't approve it.
No,
That's
no,
not
we
what I'm
need
saying.
to, we need to have language addressing these
Exactly,
concerns.
exactly. And,
I'm gonna state again that extraction, somebody will do it. Anything that's being done illegally that we can bring to an open, legal position that's inspected and regulated. If the chief knows there's an extraction process at some facility, he has the right, the building inspector would have the right, the electrical inspector would have checked the electricity, the chemicals used would, I'm sorry, did you?
No, I just wanted to finish, but I was,
No, well, I wanna, since there's something I said that somebody seems to have.
some of the extraction is not just done on a large scale. People are doing it at home, like on the stove and.
Right, okay, but-
And that is quite dangerous,
Okay,
from what I understand.
but if it's a lot, you're not gonna stop me from doing it at home on my stove and blow my house up, okay? But if there's a legal extraction place in town that I could go buy my oil, I don't know if it's legal to sell, I'm saying it's more likely I wouldn't be doing it on my stove.
The dangerous type of extraction, the dangerous extraction process, which is using butane,
Yeah,
is already prohibited by the DBR regs.
okay,
So you cannot get a license to do that type of extraction. It has to be either, I believe, using CO2, which is not a dangerous process, or alcohol also, which is not, my understanding is it's not a dangerous
all right,
process.
so there's, see, we have people that know, so we would, if we're gonna allow it, we're gonna specify CO2 or alcohol. And that way people may wanna do it legally versus blow themselves up with butane or propane or.
So that's why we gotta include it in language to protect the people in the town. So I think, we're getting a little late here.
The chief is up again, Joe.
Just one other thing, as far as, the initial cost, and mentioning that, the incident where the fire was called in at the illegal operation, just that initial investigation, just that one day, not counting the court costs associated with overtime, was probably close to $1,000, just in overtime for just that, the initial response. And that's not counting the DPW workers that were called in on that weekend.
I put the fire out.
So to that point, Serge, to that point, cost,
Smiling at
could
it.
we write cost into the ordinances? But I have two lawyers here, I picked Serge, but, so if Bill says, it cost us X, in the ordinance it would say if you operate illegally and the costs incurred by the town's lives will be reimbursed by,
For illegal?
yeah, for illegal.
They already confiscate any stuff pertaining
But
to it.
he's saying it's cost the
But
town, I'm
there's-
trying to get the money.
So there's a difference between somebody who has a card and their grow is perhaps over what they should have, or they're not following a regulation, or they're not following the license. Yeah, you can impose a fine for a violation, but if you have a straight illegal grow, you're getting arrested and that's coming with, that you can't.
That's
go
part of
for.
being illegal.
Court fee.
Okay.
Yeah, but so it's not necessarily, you can't start charging people.
No.
All right, okay, I guess.
Right, so, and I'm mentioning, if the town does allow one of these cultivations, one of these grow operations, I just mentioned it, to come out, if that place gets broke into, this illegal operation, just the initial, the officers that responded out, the DPW workers that responded out, to haul the large amount of equipment back to the police station, just that illegal operation, that initial response cost about $1,000.
Hey, Bill, we put a 9-foot fence against a solar farm, how about we put a 15-foot fence around an illegal operation, okay, we'll cover it that
No,
way.
again, just to throw it out there, that was the illegal operation. And again, these places are gonna get broke into.
That's why
That's why we have.
they were saying, Sergio was saying, they're more secure because of licensed and professional.
Well, because it's the difference, when you're talking about cooperative grows in people's houses, those are a lot more apt to be broken into because, maybe they don't have the alarm systems, but when you're talking about a commercial, probably a highly secure commercial development, I think that the likelihood of crime is a lot less on that scale.
The DER security regulations.
Because of the amount of the security and the money that these people are putting into it, rather than, several people getting together at somebody's house or somebody's garage or something like that, the security measures are just not the same.
It's 20 grand just
They
to
had one
apply
of
for
those
a
at the
license.
Stone House last week.
They require, for example.
What's that?
The regulations for, if you're a licensed company, it requires, for example, a live feed video.
Surveillance.
That's for the licensed cultivators.
Right, and that's just one of the security measures, so the bigger, the concerns that the chief has, I think, really actually probably go more toward the
Smaller
let's
scale.
just say, right, the private growers, the
And
residential co-ops.
non-residential.
You know, so we need to consider how to mitigate those or how to recoup costs in those situations, whereas we probably realistically would see less security problems with actual licensed cultivators.
So as far as the rest of the list of these different types of cultivation and caregivers, we can prohibit them and then consider the compassion center would be like the non-residential patient cultivation, non-residential caregiver, obviously.
Can't,
We probably want
I still don't think we can prohibit any kind of grow. If it's a legal grow,
non-resident, you
still agriculture, still falls under the state statute. If it's legal grow,
They're all illegal by federal.
legal by state.
No,
law.
it means,
Bill, Jeff is gonna
not
take
if
care of it.
it's not your house.
He's on his horse.
It's not your- yeah.
So if we're, so that
Or
would
the
be for
folks that
renters.
doesn't require living there. So we can prohibit it.
In South Colorado.
Or Washington.
Was it mostly
Joe, can I suggest that we end here and redo this thing?
Yeah, I think so. I want to just
With
clarify.
just getting this tonight.
Right. So, I think, at this point, I think Joanne has a pretty good idea of where we're leaning. I don't know if you kind of, I mean, there's a lot of legal stuff that we just don't have the ability to digest ourselves. I mean, that's part of the solicitors involved in it, and police chief, as far as that. Now, if there's anything here, if we're obligated to have all these things in our ordinance, then we're gonna have to write the ordinance, including all of these things, and then decide what
Realistically,
ability we have to regulate it.
if you want me to draft some type of a sample ordinance, I just need to know from the board what type of cultivators you want to allow in what zones.
I would suggest that you write the suggested law, allowing all of it, and what it would
98% of our towns, they all.
entail to be safe.
Okay.
All right, a fence, a camera, this or that. And if then when we have and Serge has added all kinds of stuff that, the different operations would require. If something seemed, that offer that information, like right now, I don't know anything about this other than I read the definitions of 8 different towns. Show us what it means if they're legal and what it would require to address the chief's, what you think would require. And then from that, we have some information to say yes or no. Because right now, we're looking at definitions.
Right, well, then we can look at each
Right.
section and decide if we want it or not.
And Serge, I know you're gonna help.
I don't think she needs my help.
Well, no, you have the information. I know you do, Serge. You're big on it.
So, do you need anything else, Joanne, at this point? All right, so
What high school did you go to,
We're gonna
Serge?
table
I just wanna
this.
know.
until,
There's no doubt in my mind.
we got a motion to table this until the solicitor has a chance to draft an ordinance, draft ordinance for the court to review.
There was no Whedon Poncenzian, when you were
I
there.
say so.
So,
It was when I was there, and that's long before he was there.
all right, so I'm gonna table this, all in favor?
Uh,
All right, okay.
Was there just a motion?
Excuse me?
There was not a motion, but we just,
No,
We just
I
did.
said that we're gonna table, he said so moved.
I wasn't sure if I could say that.
Yeah, you did. Hey, Serge, did I ever tell you?
All right. There's nothing on the comprehensive plan, future agenda, adjournment, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye.
All right.
Serge, I worked at